welcome to Sarah's Stamping Sheet. Today we're going to be using this 12 by 12 Echo Part paper pad, Magical Birthday Boy, to create some quick and simple birthday cards. And I like making these kind of cards when you've got a lot of birthdays coming up, but also if you do craft fairs or donate cards to charity. Whenever you're going to need a bunch of quick and easy birthday cards, this is a really nice thing to do. So I'm going to be using these kind of card front pages, which can be really easily used if you just cut them up and stick them on a card front, and they look really nice like that, but I want to take it one step further today. So we're going to be kind of cutting them apart and using them in a bit of a different way, just to elevate them a little bit and make them look more handmade but still be quick and simple birthday cards. So I'll just quickly show you the rest of the paper pack so that you know what's in it. So we've got these cut apart pieces, we've got these smaller panels, we've got this really cool background, we've got the tags, we've got these circles, we've got these which are great for square cards. Love this balloons background. Then we'll be using these ones today. Love the party hats on here. And we've got these cool cakes. And then this is the other page that we'll be using today. And then we've got the castles. And there are 2 pages of each, so we're going to use both pages of this and both pages of the other sheet. So we'll be using 4 pages and we're going to make 12 cards. So then the first thing that I want to do with each sheet is to cut it down into panels. So I'm just lining up each set of panels with the edge of my trimmer. This is the Caterpillar Pro trimmer, by the way. I really like it because it has a self-sharpening blade, so even though I've had it for years and years and do tons of card making, I've never had to change the blade once, and it's still really nice. So I'm just lining it up and then pushing it across, and then obviously I'm going to cut them this way too. So then I've ended up with a bunch of panels, but they're all 6 by 4, and I'm going to make A6 card blanks, which in the UK is 5 7/8 by 4 1/8 inches. So that means that they're 1/8 longer than my card front that way, and 1/8 narrower than my card front that way. So I think the best thing to do is to trim it so that it's 1/8 shorter this way as well, and then I can have 1/8 of an inch border round on my card blank. So I'm going to take each panel individually and decide where the best place to make that cut's going to be. For this one, I kind of want to do it, so I don't really want to cut off any stars if I can help it, so I'm just going to kind of line it up with the edge of the stars and see if I can get away with that. So I'm leaving them at 4 inches, and I'm going to make them to 5 3/4 inches the other way. And that'll just mean there's a small border around the edge when I put it on my card front. So I'm going to do that with all of them, but for example this one, where I've got more gap this side than this side, I'm obviously going to take more off this end and kind of make it a bit more centered. And again on this one, I'm going to take more off this side because I don't want to cut into this here. So now I've got these panels cut down right to my card front, and you can see shaving those bits off hasn't really made an impact on the actual panels. And then I'm going to do the same for the other 6 panels as well. So now I've cut one set of panels down to fit my card blanks, and the others I've just cut up. So I've cut along the lines, but I haven't cut them down because we're going to use these in pairs, and then we can layer them up and create some nice cards. So the first couple that I'm going to do are really simple. In fact, they're all very simple, but the ones that I do towards the end have just got a bit more to them. So I'm just going to stick that onto my card front, and then I'm just going to cut around this panel, and you'll notice that all of the cards today aren't going to take more than a few minutes to make. but they are just like a nice step up from just kind of gluing the card panels on to the cards and leaving them at that. And like I said, the further we get through the video, the more kind of detail we'll put into the cards. So most of the cards that I am going to use today are an English A6, so that's 4 1/8 by 5 7/8 inches, and they're actually all Stampin' Up cardstock. So I've got basic black here, and then I'll be using Cherry Cobbler and Daffodil Delight as well. So then I'm just going to turn this over, and I'm going to add some dimensionals onto the back foam pads. And then I'm going to take these yellow enamel dots. These are from Pocket Full of Happiness, and I'm just going to pop a few of these around just to add a little bit of interest. So then you can see that's a really quick and simple card, but it does have that added edge rather than just kind of cutting it and sticking it on the front of your card. So then the next couple of cards I'm going to do a really similar thing. So I've already cut the pieces out. So you can see I've got this one here, so I'm putting this on a black card base. And then you can see I've cut this piece out, so I'm going to pop that up on some foam pads. And I'm just speeding through this next couple because they're so similar to what I did with the first one. But it's nice to see it, I think, on different cards, and it's a nice way to use some of these toppers. And I think I'm going to use the black enamel dots on this one. There's that one finished. And then this one, I've cut this out, but I've saved the background because it's full of these nice bits and pieces, so we'll use the background on the next card. So I really like that, and because the background's so busy, I'm not going to add any extra gems to that. So then for the next one, you can see I've got these hats and swirly bits here, and those are things that I cut from the background of the piece of this that I cut this out of, because obviously I still had the background left off of this one, but I didn't want to waste it. I cut bits out of it. So then I'm going to use this piece for this one, and I want to create a square from it. So it's 4 inches across, so I want to do it 4 inches this way too. So I'm going to save this piece for something else. I'm not going to use it today, but it's a nice bit of pattern paper for a different card. And then I'm just going to use one layer of this one, so I can actually make 2 cards. So I've got a 5-inch square Cherry Cobbler card blank, then I've got a 4 1/4 inch square piece of Daffodil Delight cardstock, and then I'm going to layer this on top. So then I'm going to pop this up on foam pads. I do usually use foam tape if I'm doing something like this, but I've not got any hand to hand today, so I'm just using a bunch of foam pads. Foam tape's obviously just that bit more convenient because you don't have to peel all the backs off. So then I'm going to pop these hats up on the front of the card. I always like to buy slightly bigger foam pads, not the huge ones, but ones that are like good for most sizes of things, because then you can always cut them down when you need little bits like this, whereas the little ones can become quite fiddly if you need to use lots of them to pop something up. And then I'm just going to glue on these little swirls that I've cut out as well. And I know a few of you have said to me before that you feel that you're not so good at fussy cutting, but because this is a black outline and it's going onto black paper, then it doesn't really matter if your cutting's a bit messy, because the fact that it's going onto black paper will hide it, as long as you just leave that little outline. So there's that one finished, and I think those little embellishments really make that card. And because we only used one layer, I was able to make 2 of those, so I cut all of those pieces from the outside of this, so there's very little waste on that. And then I've got this one, So this one I've used the cherry cobbler card base. And then because there's not really anything very much going on here, I've taken one of these cut aparts, and that's from the other one of this sheet of paper here. And you can see that looks really nice like that, so I'm just going to pop that up. And then I'm going to decorate this with some of the yellow gems as well. So that's really cute. And obviously I only used the one layer on that as well, so I've made two of those. I've just used a different cut apart for that one. So then we're going to move on to some that we're going to cut apart and build up, but there's not kind of like where the first ones that we did, there was kind of like an obvious panel to cut. This one there's obviously not. So what I'm going to do is just cut out this birthday down the middle. And a couple of top tips for fussy cutting are, number one, you need a pair of really sharp scissors. So you can see these have quite thin blades and they're also sharp right to the points. And that's really important for getting a nice cut and nice lines. The other thing is you'll notice that while I'm cutting, the blades of my scissors barely move, only if I'm like kind of starting a new angle. It's actually the paper that I'm moving all the time. And by moving the paper as opposed to the scissors, you get less of those kind of like angular cuts. And actually the time that I do move my scissors is when I want an angular cut, like there when I'm changing direction. I want an angular cut, so I'm moving my scissors as opposed to my paper. And as with everything, it also takes practice. I actually really enjoy fussy cutting. I find it quite kind of mindful, so I do quite a lot of it. If I just want to chill out, I like to either do fussy cutting or colouring, and those are kind of like my things that help me chill. So obviously there's a lot of paper pads that have these kind of big cut aparts in them, and I've kind of designed this so that you can kind of use these techniques on any of the paper pads you have lying around. However, this is a really nice paper pad and I like it because there's a lot of things that say kind of birthday boy on them, which I've got a little boy and I would give this kind of card to like my dad or my partner, things like that. So that's quite nice in having some kind of like cards specifically for men on hand, but I also think it's a really nice pack for just making cards for everyone. Like I think some of the images are more young, some are more old, and it's nice to have these kind of cards on hand because, for example, my little boy's been invited to one of his friends from school who happens to be a girl. He's going there on Saturday. She's turning 5, and I think one of these cards would be perfect for her. Obviously not one with a boy on it. There's plenty without the birthday boy on it as well. This paper pack is an older one, but that means that actually in the places that have still got it in stock, you can quite often find a bit of a deal on it. So I'll link it below. So then I'm going to add a few little yellow gems on this one as well, just to brighten it up a little bit. So the other thing that's good with these cards is, if you can see, I'm not sure if it's shown up on camera, but this corner of this card is slightly watermarked. I must have spilt something on it at some point. But because this covers so much of it, and you can't see that watermark inside, then I can use it for a card like this. And I often do that with things where, for example, if I've stamped straight on the front of a card and made a mistake, then I won't throw it away. I'll save it and use it for a card like this where I'm going to cover up most of the front. So I don't like waste where I can prevent it. So then on this one there's obviously lots of things that you could cut out. And there's part of me that wants to go all out and cut out everything, but actually what I might do is cut out this birthday, and then I think I'm going to cut out the icing on the cake because that would be the bit that would be the most forward. So I think it'd be nice just to pop up the icing on those. So then I'm going to pop this up on some frying pans. So then there's that cute card. So then I'm going to speed through the next couple of cards because they use very similar techniques to the last couple, but I think it's quite nice to see how it works on a few different cards. And I purposefully haven't put foam pads behind there because I really like the kind of dimension of the flags kind of almost being able to wave around kind of thing. Let's add a few of these again. So there we go. And then this one's another one where I'm just going to pick out bits to cut out. So I'm going to cut out the cake, I'm going to cut out the candles, and I'm going to cut out Superstar, and that will help kind of give it a bit of dimension. Then I can pop those bits up on my card. I'm going to add a few of these in. So there's that one. So then for our final two cards, I'm going to add a bit of detail. You can see I've got this birthday boy one here. And I'm going to team this up with this. So I've actually pre-made one because I've used the other one of these and the other one of these to create this one. So you can see I've just added that detail to that boy. I'm not going to add as much detail to this one. I'm just going to outline it because I think at the moment there's not kind of much feature to the writing, and I want to kind of make it the feature of my card. So I'm just going to kind of go around the outside. I'm going to add extra bit of like writing detail into the middle. So then I'm going to cut that wording out. So then I can just glue this onto here. And for all these dark coloured card blanks, I'll just pop a white cardstock insert the same size as the piece that I'm adding to the front on the inside so that you can write your message. So then I'm just going to add some black dots. And there's my finished card. And you can see you get slightly different looks by adding different details to the lettering. So then for this final one, I'm going to cut the wish upon it and the balloons out. And then I'm going to use my pen just to outline these letters. Obviously you don't have to outline the black, I just wanted it to make sure that it kind of like looked the same as the other letters, because obviously you don't get such a crisp edge when you outline them yourself, so I didn't want it to kind of like stick out. I just feel like that little bit of added detail really adds something to the letters. So I'm going to cut out those individual letters as well. And things like this birthday here that I'm not going to use on this card, I can keep and use as a sentiment on a different card. So I can glue it all together. I'm using one of the cherry cobbler card blanks for this one. And then I think I'm going to add some of the black dots to this one to kind of add a little bit of like boldness to it. And there's my final card finished. So let me bring in the other cards. I'm going to bring them in one by one so that you can really see what we've got, because it's going to be hard to see them once we've got them all down. So there we go. I started off saying I was going to make 12 cards. I actually made 14 because there are a couple that we doubled up on, like this one and this one. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's cards. If you did, I'd appreciate you clicking like below, and I'd love you to let me know in the comments whether you'd like to see more videos using this paper pair. You can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will notify you when I've got a new video available. The paper pack that I've used in today's video is linked in the description below, and there's also a link there to my blog. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.